Oh, hello, 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 and welcome to episode 13 of The Burly Nathan Show. I am your host and MC, as always, Burly Nathan. Thank you all so much for supporting my show and supporting all of our great guests that have been here so far. We've gotten some really awesome feedback, and I love it. I just love it so much. We are working on the next 7 episodes of the show until we get up to episode 20, and I have started booking some more guests, and I'm super excited to kind of do a bit of a pivot. I know I've spent a lot of time talking with my friends and colleagues in the theater and burlesque industry, but we're going to take a little bit of a turn. We're going to start interviewing some folks that are outside of this business, which I'm very excited about. And then obviously we'll come back to all my friends and people locally that I've worked with, but we're going to start getting new takes on things and kind of shift it up a little bit. So I can't wait to announce some of the great guests that I have coming up, and I will do so on my social media. You can follow me at Burly Nathan on all the platforms: Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, Tinder, Grindr, Bumble. You can find me on all of those. I mean, maybe, I don't know. I can neither confirm nor deny those allegations. But anyway, thank you so much for supporting the show. And one awesome way that you can support it is by following and sharing and subscribing to this podcast anywhere you listen to them, whether it be Spotify or Apple Music or Amazon Music or Pandora or iHeartRadio or TuneIn Radio or all of the cool places. You can follow us on Podbean. You can follow us anywhere. And just leave a comment and rate the show. Hopefully you like 5 stars. If not, I want your honest opinions. Let us know what you really think. You're like, I hate that guy. I still listen to the shows, but God, I hate that guy. That's great. I would love to read that. It's humbling, and every once in a while, a showboy needs to be humbled. All right. So today's guest is a good friend of mine. She is an up-and-coming performer and producer in the Orlando burlesque scene. I've had the great fortune of working with her in the past, and earlier this year as the MC for one of her shows. So tune in a little bit later on in the show to hear my interview with Miss Magenta Magic. A few housekeeping things that we'll talk about, as always. Our sponsor, adamandeve.com. Head on over to adamandeve.com and use promo code BURLY, B-U-R-L-Y, at checkout. You'll get 50% off and 10 free gifts and a bunch of cool stuff, discreet shipping. Go there, buy some awesome adult things, spice up your sex life. I've bought from there many, many a times for myself and for friends, so I highly encourage you to do so. They've been a big supporter of mine over the last decade and all of my podcast opportunities, so go over to adamandeve.com, use promo code BURLY, B-U-R-L-Y, at checkout, get some cool stuff for the summer, and stock up on just about everything. I want to do some shout outs to some other local businesses that I am a huge fan of. You heard Ruby Tesla on the last episode. She launched her apparel brand, Papa Vixen, papavixen.com. Go on there and buy some of her amazing shirt creations. I know she's going to have more stuff coming out soon, but I'm actually placing my order today for shirts for myself, Taryn, and Debbie to get some shirts before we go to Pride in a couple of weeks. So I'm going to be doing that. There's no promo code. I want you to pay full price. Go on to papavixen.com and get some awesome apparel. It's very sex work positive, very performer positive, and it supports a small business. So go support Ruby Tesla. Go to papavixen.com, P-A-P-A-V-I-X-E-N.com, and go buy some cool shirts. I'm buying the So Fucking Gay shirt, which I'm very excited about, to go confuse a bunch of people at Pride, to make them think they have a chance. Maybe they do. I don't know. Really just depends on how hot they are. That sounded so shallow. I'm sorry. That's not who I am. I swear to God, that's not who I am. I'm rambling. It is Friday morning, May 31st, when I'm recording my section of this. And when I go on social media today, almost everything that I see, guilty. I don't care if you are a Trump supporter. I don't care if you are a Biden supporter. I don't care if you support no one if you listen to my show. I'm just happy you're listening. But understand, we are a very anti-Trump establishment right now on my show. I hate the guy. I also hate most people in the government, but that's just me. But going on and seeing all this anti-Trump stuff and the fact that he's guilty and actually being held accountable for his shitty things is a great thing. I hope that if you do anything shitty, I don't care what side of the political divide you are on, if you do something shitty and you lie about it and you try to get away with it, I hope you get nabbed. I really, really do. That's been something I've been thinking about a lot this week, and I'm not going to get into anything, but all I'm saying is if you've done something shitty, and karma will come back and get you. That's all I have to say. I really, really, really despise folks that try to lie and get away with things. That's just not something you should do. especially if you're in political power and you try to convince a bunch of people that you are the person that they should trust, when in reality, you aren't doing anything to earn it. So that's my 2 cents on that. A lot of my friends are viewing this as a gigantic victory for them because of all the shitty things Trump did to them when he was president. And you know what? I completely agree. The guy was kind of a D-bag. So anyway, my show's not super political, but I just had to say that. It's on everybody's lips right now, and I just want it to be, current. I want it to be hip, like the cool kids and the cool podcast. Just don't call me Joe Rogan. I would never be that guy. All right, so the only other thing I want to talk about is upcoming shows. I'm only going to talk about one right now because it's coming up soon. On June 11th at the James Museum of Wildlife and Western Art, I will be performing my one-man show, which is called Out on the Range. It's going to be a ton of fun. I'll be joined by my great friend Jessica, you might know as Poppy Bubbles. She'll be doing a couple guest spots on that, but it's a 2-hour show. I believe it starts at about 6 o'clock. If you go to the James Museum's website, you can reserve your tickets now. They're just $10 each. Come on out, help me fill up the room. I would love to see a lot of my friends there. I'm writing a brand new show that is a country, western, Broadway, gay mix of things. So come on out and see that show. I'm going to be writing it this weekend, finishing touches on writing it this weekend. I will be taking a little bit of a break. We may not have any episodes of the podcast for a little bit. I'm going away to the Keys starting tomorrow with Taryn and my family for our very first Doherty family vacation that we have never taken. We've never taken a full vacation as a family in a long time, probably like 10, 11 years. So I'm going to be disconnecting from everything for the next few days, next week rather, in the Florida Keys. Hope to see some cool shows, hope to see some cool people. I might record myself and my friends and my family getting drunk while we're there, and maybe I'll replay it on the show. I don't know. We'll see. But anywho, it's been a great journey so far in these 13 episodes of the show. I hope you guys have enjoyed it. I'm not going to ramble much anymore. So, there we go. All right, folks, we have reached the part of the show where I bring on my guest. I'm very excited to chat with our guest today that I've been teasing over the last few shows. She and I have worked together a bit, and I'm sure we're going to work together a lot more in the future. Welcome to the show, Miss Magenta Magic. How are you, my dear?
Oh my gosh, I'm so good. Thank you so much for having me today.
Of course, I'm happy to have you here. And because I love talking to people who have been in the business for a while, not been in the business for a while, and have different experiences in what they've done so far. So tell my listeners who maybe don't necessarily know who you are, and some who do, a little bit about you and what you do.
So my name is Miss Magenta Magic. I am a burlesque performer. I'm also a producer and owner of Moonlight Tassels Productions here in Orlando. I have actually only been performing for a little over a year, at least in burlesque, and then I started my company in September of last year, so I haven't even been producing for a full year yet. I realize that that's kind of the fast track. Not everybody does that. They spend a lot more time performing traditionally before they start producing. I feel like I brought a lot of my life experience with me, where I've been in like different types of entertainment shows and things like that. So I fast tracked it a little bit. I don't necessarily recommend that for everyone, but I absolutely love what I do, and I love the people that I've been able to work with so far, and hope that I get to do it a whole lot more.
That's great. So before you got into burlesque and you got into all of this, did you have a background in anything to do with the theater arts, any of that? Like, was this just something that you wanted to do one day and said, I'm doing this, or is this something that you have some background in?
So I have some background in it, but like way background, right? So roughly 20, maybe even 25 years ago. So y'all can start guessing my age now if you want to, but it's been a while. So I used to be really involved in like theater stuff, like high school, early 20s, things like that. And also in dancing and performance art a little bit. But I also had kids pretty early. So I actually spent a lot of time really focusing on, my day job, career, and raising my kids. And some people can do both, and I think that's wonderful. I just chose a slightly different track. So while I was helping my kids do, explore their hobbies and, sports and arts and singing and all those things, I was able to make time to do things like actually used to sing with the Orlando Gay Chorus, OGC,
Nice.
in Orlando. I think I started around 2016, and I'm
That's
staying with
great.
them off and on for a few seasons. So that was kind of my first step back into like performance. So like I hadn't been doing things for a long time, but I love to sing. I love being on stage. I love performing, and my kids are now adults, so I have more time to do this. And I really burlesque is a specific form of dance that I hadn't done before that I was actually really excited to try. So that's really kind of how I got back into it. I started seeing burlesque shows actually right before COVID happened. And
Hmm.
then, that kind of stopped things for a bit. And then once things were really up and going again, I was at a show where I had heard about the burlesque conservatory and was like, oh my gosh, here's an opportunity for me to like go to a specific place and find my way into the community.
That's awesome.
So
So yeah, because I know, I mean, we've obviously spoken about it, and I've seen you perform live and sing and do sing strip, which is a thing that doesn't happen that often. And I know you know too. Like, there's not an awful lot of folks that will do sing strip. And the very first show we worked on together, which was your Britney Spears show, I was like, dang, I love people who do this. And I was very happy that you were not only able to help, produce the show and make it your show, but also get up and sing strip too. I thought that was awesome. Is singing something that you've all, because you said you obviously used to did theater and whatnot. Is that like, that was your main thing for a while, or were you training to do singing, acting, dancing, all of that, or that sort of thing?
so I never really did a ton of training, but like singing is at the core of my entire being. If I can't sing, I don't know what I would do. So for
Same.
a lot of years where like I couldn't, I didn't feel like I had the time to go out and do a lot of performance stuff. Like I would hit up karaoke every chance I got with my friends. So um, whatever it was, so that like I still had an outlet to be on stage and sing, even if
That's
the
great.
stage was small and just my friends, right? But like
Right.
that is like absolutely. Actually, my kids will probably tell you stories of like when we would be cleaning house on the weekends. We'd have like a deep cleaning once a month, and I would like blast the music, and I'd be singing and dancing all over the house while we're all cleaning. So
Yeah, my mom was very
um,
much like that too, and
yeah,
that's
so
and that's a
singing
great
is really
exposure
at the
to that
core.
too. Oh yeah, for sure. So when you started looking at burlesque, did you immediately think I want to be a dancer, or did you immediately think I want to put on shows? Because obviously you said you did the fast track for that. Was producing something that you thought about before, at that same time?
I had kind of thought about producing. I have a little bit of background, even professionally, from like roughly 10 years ago, of doing a lot of event coordination. So, like, I
Right.
did training coordination, I did event coordination, I did a lot of things like that. And I love doing that, and I love putting things together and really just creating an environment where people have a great time. So, I don't know that I had initially thought about producing right out the gate, but then someone was talking about an idea that they had, and they kind of invited some friends together. We had actually all just finished from the burlesque conservatory together, and was like, hey, I want to do a show, and kind of invited us all together. And I was like, actually, I would like to produce this with you, if that's okay, if you're open to that idea. And we produced a show together. And then at that show, and that was with Ash Patatas. And then at that show, Snowy Phoenix was in that show. And Snowy Phoenix, before the show was even over, like came to me and was like, I have this idea. I want to do Britney Spears burlesque. And I was like, that is an amazing idea. So we ended up co-producing the Britney Spears show in January of this year. And I think even after that very first experience, I was like, I love this. I love taking all the different elements and seeing how all the pieces fit so that we can make the best. I can create a certain environment and a certain show for the audience. Yeah. So I didn't
That's great.
know as soon as I went into it that I was also going to be producing. But as soon as I got a taste of it, I was like, this is fantastic. I love this. I love being able to support the community this way and create opportunities for burlesque performers. And I love being able to present shows that audiences hopefully love.
Oh yeah, that's great. I mean, most performer most performers will end up catching the bug at some point to put on their own thing. And that was definitely me in the theater world too, because I would go see musicals and I would go see plays and I would be like, I want to direct, I want to be a part of that. And then when I started getting into burlesque, because I got into burlesque on the music side, and I started seeing him, like, I really want to put my own stuff out there. So I totally understand where you're coming from seeing that. And I'm glad that you got to be exposed to, the Orlando scene, because, it's one of the best in the state. And it's cool that everybody is good at being a community coming together with ideas. And, I've worked with all of you guys, and it's always fun to see people excited for the show, excited to try something new and interesting. Because yeah, when the Britney Spears show was coming together and you guys asked me to be a part of it, I was like, all right, I am an interesting choice for that, but you know what? Fuck it, I'll do it. And we had fun, and the audience loved it. And I'm happy for you. And I know you've done some of the comic strip shows, and I know those have been great successes.
Mhm.
Any thoughts that you could give to budding producers or performers that want to become them? Like, what are some thoughts that you could give to them when they want to get started on this journey as even a new performer?
My biggest, I think the biggest thought that I can give is talk to other producers. Talk to producers who are putting on shows that you enjoy going to,
Mm-hmm.
because they will hopefully share their knowledge and experience and help you look at the things and the pieces that maybe you don't think about. Right. So, like, there are certain elements that when I first started putting on shows that maybe I hadn't really thought about initially. I'm like, okay, I want a full show, so that's 10 acts. Well, these are all great acts, but how you put those acts together in a certain order with different colors and all those things are really important. So, but I wouldn't have learned some of that stuff if I hadn't reached out to producers that I knew or had met, um, and seeing their shows. Like, I knew I liked what they produced.
Right.
So that would be one of my biggest suggestions is, like, reach out to people that are you respect and admire and you see their work, and ask them to share some of their knowledge and experience with you.
Makes sense. And what's funny is a lot of performers say the same thing when it comes to getting into burlesque in general is just go see shows, make connections, speak to people. And I know it's tough to go just randomly talk to somebody that you don't know or a performer that you go see. But I will say, like, 9 times out of 10, these performers are the nicest human beings on the planet. And if you go up to them and you ask them questions in a professional way, and don't be, because I know there are some, and I've seen this before, where they'll go up and be like, I want to do what you do, tell me your secrets. And it's like, all right, calm down a little bit. Like, I've been working on this for a while, but I will help and I'll give you some ideas and thoughts. But if a performer came up to me and said, hey, Nathan, I'm really interested in producing a show, can you help me out with that? I would be happy to help, because I want people to be educated and knowledgeable. So I'm glad that you did that and went to go see those shows and were able to come up with that. So I want to ask some, like I would do with all my guests, I want to ask some rapid fire questions
Woo, rapid
that I
fire.
would love for our folks to be able to get the answers to. And some of these, if we've there are some questions in here that are zingers that if we want to come back to, we can. So the
Okay.
very first one that I love to ask folks, because I'm huge about on stage problems and fixing problems that happen on stage. I love improv and I love being able to, like, solve things on the fly, because it just gives me a thrill when I'm able to do something and it go unexpectedly, but then I'm able to save. What is the most outrageous or wacky costume malfunction that you've ever had on stage?
Oh gosh. I honestly, and this probably is not like that big of a deal. Okay, I think we've all had issues, or many of us have probably had issues with corsets getting stuck, right?
Yep.
Like, you're really kind of struggling to play with your corsets and get it to, unhook so you can do the reveal. I've had that. That's an obvious one. I have actually also had this have I still have it. I have this beautiful robe, and actually I wore it at the Britney show, and it's this beautiful pink magenta type color with this black fur, faux fur, just to be
Sure,
clear,
sure, sure.
feathers, faux feathers around the edges, and it's beautiful. And I bought a large because I, kind of needed a large, but it is way too long for me. So I I don't
No, that
always
can go.
flow as well in that. So like I'm end up like picking this thing up and carrying with me. So I'm like wrapping myself in it almost like a blanket walking out
Right.
on stage because like I don't want to trip and break my neck as I'm coming out to
But
sing.
you're gonna show that robe off. Hell or
But
high
I
water, you showing that fucking robe off.
absolutely, are you
That's
kidding
great.
me? Like it is 100% my color and it's gorgeous. At this point, I'm probably going to get ready to get rid of it because I'm like, I don't need to break my neck.
You're right. You know, everyone, if you do it for photos, pose with them or something, make it the first thing you take off. Then good, great, it's done.
Yes,
That's great.
absolutely.
All right, that's a good one. Okay, so let's see. Let's see. What is a piece, or excuse me, what is a silly superstition, if you have any, that you subscribe to in the performance world?
I don't know that I actually know of too many superstitions in the
Really?
performance world.
Yeah, because I mean, and which is also a fine thing too. So that means you don't give a shit. You're just like, I'm going out there no matter what. I don't need to run around the stage and throw salt and not say Macbeth. Who gives a shit?
I mean, honestly, like that's kind of how I live my life. Not that I don't give a shit, but like that's kind of how I live my life. Like, you know what? I'm gonna go out. I do the things I need to do to prepare, and I
Mm-hmm.
know shit's gonna happen sometimes, and I'm gonna go with it. So,
Okay,
I don't know. I
good.
kind of carry that confident energy with me. So,
That's good. Now, do you? And this is actually kind of a piggyback on this question. Um, some performers, and me included, I still do get stage fright before a show. Like right before I go on, no matter what, I've always got that little bit of anxious energy. Do you have any of that? Is that something that you still have? Something that you use constructively?
oh yeah, 100%. It's not like super into. So it's interesting because like honestly, it doesn't usually hit me until literally this song or maybe two songs before I'm going on, which is great. That means I can still run around and be a producer and I can do what I need to do and then I can because I am in some of my own shows. I'm not gonna
Right,
lie,
of
I
course.
love that. But like it allows me to kind of live in that producer headspace and make sure everybody else is taken care of. And then the stage fright or whatever you want to call it, that energy is like, oh shit, I'm getting ready to go on. I absolutely still experience that, but it's never, I don't know, like for me, it's thrilling. I think
Yeah,
like I have always experienced that and I
right.
have always loved following through and getting on the stage, anyways.
Yeah, I know. At least with me, the moment that I start, it melts away. It's gone,
Yes.
and then it just turns into pure adrenaline, just going for it. And yeah, I love that. That's great.
Yeah.
Um,
Sounds like we have very similar experiences with that.
We do, and I also think that a lot of the time, people who are singers, we that's natural because I have that right before a note sometimes, right? A big note is coming, so you've got that bit of anxious energy that helps propel you to be able to hit that note. That might be a little tough. So I think when you are a singer as well, you learn to cope and and learn to take that anxious energy and put it into something more constructive in some cases.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, so this is actually an interesting question. I haven't really asked too many people this, and I just wrote it today. Was Miss Magenta Magic always the first name you wanted to go with, or were there alternates?
Oh, there were definitely alternates. I really I didn't know where to start if I'm being
Yeah.
honest. So I had to ask people like how do you even come up with one. I put my name in some of those like generators, the name generator for like
Yep.
burlesque. It was ridiculous. They weren't very good, if I'm being honest. And then there's like the common things where people are like, okay, maybe start with a color, and maybe start with one of your favorite things, whether it's this or whether it's that, whatever, and kind of go through that. I went through so many names. Honestly, I think I thought about my name for like 3 or 4 weeks before I finally settled on Miss Magenta Magic. And I love to say Miss Magenta Magic because what sold me on it, aside from the alliteration, is
We love
that
that.
that it's then my abbreviation is 3 M's. Like, so much to say.
Okay. All right, that's good. I like
So
that. That's pretty good. All right, I
um,
can roll with that. That's awesome.
yeah, yeah,
Very good. Yeah, because it's always interesting to see origin stories because we spoke with Ruby Redbright a couple shows ago, and she had like two or three different names that she actually worked with before actually ending on
yes.
the one that she had. I did the name generator too when I was like, I'm getting into burlesque a bit more, and I threw the name generator in there, and it just gave me some dumb ideas. And I'm like, you know what? Most performers don't go with their actual name, but because I've been in theater for 20 years, I'm like, I don't want to have to rebuild another persona somewhere else. Like, I'll just use my own name. I won't use my last name. Who gives a shit? And I don't necessarily work in an industry where if they found out what I did, I would get like yanked. Like, I'm not.
Yeah.
I don't have to worry about that. I work in entertainment and music anyway, so it doesn't matter. But it's always interesting to see where people come up with their names because I've heard some really great ones. I've heard some wild ones,
Mhm.
and it's just fun to know the origin stories of that. So that's good.
Yeah, that's it. Sometimes I wish it was cooler. I feel like like maybe
Well,
it was a cooler story, but like that's just my story. And like
yeah,
I came up with a color I like. I like things being magical and mystical and things like that. So that yeah, Miss Magenta Magic.
you had me at the alliteration, and I thought, that's done,
Mhm.
beautiful. And what is the tagline that you use?
I don't really have
You don't
one.
have one.
I
Ooh.
don't have one. Like it's crazy because like I said, I've been doing this just over a year now, and
Mm-hmm.
I have wanted a tagline since day one. The only part of the tagline I've really come up with is she'll make you say,
I was just
you
thinking
know.
that. That's
I
good.
like it,
Yeah.
but I feel like there's something else somewhere that's waiting for me. But it'll hit when the moment's right, I think.
A
Yeah.
lot of the time, taglines end up. I've seen and heard a lot of people where their taglines end up where like an MC at their show comes up with something randomly and then they loved it. There's a couple MC friends of mine, Alistair, who's given me. He always workshops them whenever I'm hanging out with them, and I'm like, all right, we'll try, we'll see what happens, whatever falls out organically. Or
Yeah.
if you have audience members that will say something to you after a show, like your performance had me XYZ, and you're like, oh, that's a good word to use, and then you can do that. So you're in a good spot because you're still obviously getting in there and really getting people to know who you are. So maybe it'll come, who knows? Maybe a
Yeah.
random performer will give you an idea. But no, that's great. That's awesome. Let's see. Okay, what is the weirdest item and or costume piece that you've ever integrated into an act?
Yeah. Weirdest? I
Or maybe
honestly,
unique instead of weird. Maybe like what's a unique thing that maybe is something just you, or something that you created yourself that maybe you integrated into an act.
yeah. So, I don't think that there's really been anything like super weird. Again, I've been doing it just over a year,
Right.
and I haven't done a ton of acts, and like I've still kind of been expanding into like what the singing aspects are and all of that. But I I think my favorite prop that I like bought and then rhinestoned myself was a like a staff. So for my
Nice.
burlesque debut, I put a spell on you, any
Nice.
Linux version,
Oh, wow.
and so like I bought like a little. Like a little Halloween staff, and it's got like
Right.
a little ball in it and some claws. Like it's really great. And then like I rhinestone the shit out of this plastic staff.
Hell yeah, that's great. I love that.
Oh, it's great. I love it. I'm like, I don't feel like it's weird, but it is definitely like that was fun.
That's a
It's a
unique to
lot of
you
fun.
thing. You made it yourself. You took something you bought and enhanced it. No, that's
Yeah,
great.
yeah.
All right. So I asked this question during every episode, and this one is one maybe you have to think about because this is always a oh god. If burlesque had its own Olympics, what event would you dominate, and what would your signature move be?
Well, I mean, I was gonna come out
Right.
very confident and
You
say
know what? Do it. Do it.
singing.
Come out. Boom.
Obviously, like I
Done.
would absolutely dominate in the singing burlesque field.
Boom.
Yes, and I think
Love it.
the signature move would be, in the like right after the last note, I do some lovely tassel twirling, and you guys can't see it right now, but I'm making the motion so Nathan knows what
Yep.
my
I
tassel twirling would look like. Yes.
Yep, I've seen it from now this way. I've seen it now from the side. So now I'll see it from the back, and then I will have the full view. It'll all be there. That's great. I love it. All right. Okay. So I know, and we're gonna talk a little bit more about your burlesque stuff, and then we're going to move on to you in general. I know you have some shows coming up. So for my audience that maybe is in the area or not, or they can come visit, let us know what you have going on.
Yeah. So next month, actually, like 2 weeks away on Friday, June 14th, I have my birthday show, which is a burlesque variety show called Magenta's Menagerie. That is going to be at the Me Theater. I'm super excited about that. Actually, as you mentioned, Ruby Rubright was on a couple of episodes ago.
Yep.
She's in the show. I'm really excited. This is my first time working with her,
She's great.
so I'm really excited to have her. And we've just got a really great cast all the way around. I love it.
That's
The
awesome.
next show after that I have coming up is actually going to be a comedy burlesque show. It's
Nice.
Friday, August 23rd, also at the Me Theater in Orlando. Um, I'm very excited about that.
Yeah.
We're still getting the final cast together, so I'll be, the casting's not quite done for that yet, but it will be soon. But I can tell you from what I'm getting and stuff, it's gonna be hilarious. I love it.
That's
Yeah.
great. I love that mashup of comedy and burlesque. Like, there's nothing really like it. And it takes comedy is hard. It really,
Hmm.
really is. And to do comedy right and to nail it, it's a very tough thing because you've got to be universally funny. You can't just be funny to one little niche of people because you've got to make that whole audience laugh. So that's what
Correct.
people underestimate when it comes to doing comedy acts is what are you going to do that's going to somehow, some way, in some form appeal to everybody in that room.
Yeah, and it's kind of funny because I had a couple of people ask me if there was like a specific kind of comedy I was looking for, and I was like, not really. And I realize that's not always helpful for some people.
Right.
I was like, but I will tell you this: I want it to elicit a belly laugh.
Good.
So I'm not super concerned about exactly what kind of comedy it is. At least when I was getting all the submissions in, I was like, but I want it to make people laugh because I want it to make them feel good. Like I want to, again, it goes back to creating that experience for the audience. And so I'm very excited.
I
Yeah.
love it. No, that's great. I'm gonna mark my calendar for that because I want to come see that because I always love seeing how people will integrate that into their. I've seen people who do like comedic reverse strips, which they'll put clothes on, so they'll start completely. And I've seen some very funny acts like that. I've seen some very funny like cosplay acts, and a few years ago I was one of the judges for Burly Picks, which was a competition that used to happen, and I always loved seeing the comedy ones, and I was the ones that I judged and it was just so interesting to see what wacky, ridiculous things that people can come up with. So I'm excited to see that. That's gonna be great. And these shows are at the Emmy Theater in Orlando. You said right?
Yes, that's
That's
correct.
very cool. If people want to get tickets for that sort of thing, how would they go about doing so?
So I actually have a website, moonlighttassels.com.
Great.
People can find links to the shows there and find more information about the shows. And then if you follow Moonlight Tassels Productions on Eventbrite, you can find tickets to the shows there as well. You can
Very
also
cool.
always follow me on Instagram, both Miss underscore Magenta underscore Magic and Moonlight Tassels. You can find on Instagram, and you can follow all my stuff there.
Fabulous. And yeah, you'll always be able to see anytime that she has any shows going on. I always share it, so if you follow me as well, you will definitely be exposed to all those promos. So that's great. Well, I'm excited to come see you in that and come see those shows. And I hope you have a great birthday show. So I want to start digging a little bit into some more stuff here, and so people can get to know the real you. I'm going to ask you some superfluous questions now, some random ones that you can just fire off, and things that I've asked other guests in the past. So let's start with a very important one. What is your favorite season of the year and why?
I think this one's kind of hard.
Yeah.
Yes, and I'm going to blame it on the fact that I'm a Gemini and I'm bisexual and I'm very
Hard to
I
make
love all
decisions.
the things. Yeah, it's yes, correct.
I feel that. I feel that a lot.
So it's so funny because like I think my two favorite seasons are actually summer and fall.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Fun. Great.
absolutely. I love being outside in the summer and going to the beach and spending time in the pool and hanging out in the yard and all that kind of stuff. But man, like if I had to pick an absolute favorite, it would absolutely be the fall. There's something about the changing of the season, things getting cooler, heading into spooky season that just mm, really speaks to me.
Good. All right. Great. If you were on a deserted island and you had one food for the rest of your life, what would it be? I know we're coming in with the hard ones today.
I know, I know. Um, Actually, it'd probably be steak. Like
Steak.
that's all I could eat for the rest of my life. Like I realize it's probably not like the healthy whatever. We're not talking about anything that makes sense.
Yeah,
If
you're on a
I only
deserted
could eat
island. Who
one
gives a
thing
shit
for the
about
rest of
health?
my life, yes, exactly.
You gotta just live it up and enjoy it
I
at
just
that point.
want
All right.
filet mignon steak. Like, give me that.
All right, good. You all right? You just got some brownie points with me. We will go for fillets soon. All right.
Oh yes.
Let's see. What is a song that is on repeat in your life? Is there a certain song that you listen to all the time, or a certain artist?
Okay, so I saw Hozier in concert earlier this month, and that was absolutely amazing. So he's been on my Spotify on repeat a lot. His new number one, Too Sweet, has been there a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But again, like my music is my musical choices are very eclectic. I
Yeah,
love a lot of everything. So
I feel
yeah.
you there. It's hard to pick favorites, especially when you're a vocalist and a singer and people that are in this industry. I can't pick for shit. Like if people say, "What is your top five?" I'm like, my top five will change every week. My Spotify is a mess. The end of the year, like my Spotify top last year was medieval lo-fi because I would work to it every day. And it's like
I
you
didn't even know that
listen
was a
to
thing.
9,000 hours of medieval lo-fi. And yeah, I was all about it. But no, that's great. I mean, it's hard to make decisions when you are in this business. But that's
Yeah,
great.
for sure. Well, and then like lately I've also because when you're getting ready for shows and stuff, like I have to decide what music I'm gonna do. What am I gonna sing to? Am I singing?
Hmm.
Like that all affects what I end up choosing. So yeah.
Yeah, that's great. I love that. All right, let's see here. What is a belief in your life that you hold strongly to? Like, what's your golden rule in your life?
Um, every person is inherently worthy.
Good,
Every person is inherently worthy and absolutely deserves to be treated with respect and dignity.
beautiful, beautiful. Now the next question is kind of, it can be kind of tied back to the performance world as well, because I know some performers will grapple with this when it comes to criticism. I know in this business, as somebody who, and when I've worked in musical theater forever, when people come up to you after the shows, especially folks maybe are a bit older, they will tell you exactly what the fuck they think about what you just did. And how do you handle criticism? How do you handle when things maybe don't pan out like you would want them to? What's your go to
Um, Yeah, if I'm being perfectly honest, like a lot of times I end up talking about it in therapy.
for that? Yeah, same.
But and initially, like it's hard sometimes to receive criticism, even if it's like meant to be constructive and helpful. Like
Right.
I it's something that I've struggled with for a really long time is accepting criticism, even if it's meant to help me grow. But I try to take it in the moment, accept it, move forward, and sometimes like it's not valid, and I can just let it go. And sometimes, like I said, it's got to go to therapy, and I need to figure it out.
That goes to the therapy bucket. You'll deal with that during the sessions. I feel you there. I can hard relate with that. And I think as a performing producer and somebody who puts together shows, I'm sure, and I've gotten this before too. I've gotten some very unwarranted criticism from people, and I'm like, all right, like I can see what you were saying. Okay, maybe I'll integrate that into my show. And then I've gotten criticism before, and I'm like, coming from this person, I'm not listening to shit. Like I'm not gonna listen to this person because I know what they're saying is out of maybe jealousy or it's out of spite or whatever, because you're going to face that in this business if
Mhm.
you produce shows and other people do, and it's very competitive. We are in a super competitive field, so there will always be that sort of stuff in the background. It's good to listen to people, and I always do like a, all right, thank you, I appreciate your feedback. Like, what else
Yep.
can I say?
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's good. I love that. Okay, so this is one that I put out on my Instagram last week, and I got some interesting responses. I'm not sure if you're one of them, so sorry if you were. What is a common misconception that people may have of you, that they may know, just maybe on a surface level? What's a common misconception that people might have of you in general?
That's a great question. I think that there have been times where people think that I'm not very approachable.
Yeah.
Um, I I don't know why. I, I say like I don't know why because I think I'm friendly and outgoing and all those things. Like, well, I am genuinely like usually all those things. But I'm also confident, so I think sometimes people are can be intimidated by that, or um, Yeah.
People are intimidated by strong-willed people, and I know my wife Taryn. She deals with that a lot because she's a very strong person, and she's got resting bitch face, as many people do, especially in this business. So they'll think, "Oh my
Yes.
god, she hates me. She's scared of me." But in reality, like, no. I mean, unless you give her a reason to, she will. But she's a very sweet person, and I think when you're strong and when you can command a room and when you can command a presence, people will take that as a wow, that person, maybe I shouldn't talk to them because they won't want to talk to me, or maybe they won't like me. Like, I think that's where some people might, their brains may go at that point.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that's really valid. Yeah.
And as somebody who knows you, I know you are very approachable, so they should absolutely approach you. Unless you're in the middle of an act, then they should
Absolutely.
just sit and watch.
Yeah, correct, correct. Don't approach me while I'm in the middle of performing. But yes, like absolutely. If you want to come up to me after a show, absolutely do so. If I end up needing to redirect to something else, I will very kindly let people know. But yeah, I'm absolutely approachable. Thank you for
Good,
saying that.
good. Of course, of course. So, this is one that I like to ask because I know people have lots of varying opinions on what this is, and I always like to know what makes people tick. What is it, how would you describe your ideal happiness? What makes you the happiest and why?
This one's also kind of tricky, right? Because there's usually a couple of things. Number one, singing makes me happier than anything else. Like there's a fire in my soul that has to be fed by singing. But some of the other things that like make me really happy are community. So whether that means like spending more time with my kids, spending time supporting and hopefully building the burlesque community, if it means spending time supporting other communities that are really important to me, like the LGBT community. There's a lot of communities that like I'm involved in because I have so many varied interests and stuff. But that connecting, that's it. It's the connecting of people. Like
That's
if
great.
it's not about singing, it's about connecting and building relationships. Yeah.
I love that. In this business and in, maybe even in your personal life too, what's something that you do personally that helps keep you grounded and stay centered amidst challenges or amidst even successes? What is something that keeps you grounded?
So I'm also going to repeat my earlier answer. Therapy really
Yep,
helps.
there you go. Hmm.
A neutral person who can help me, you know, work it out in my head, like things that are valid, things that maybe aren't as important, et cetera, et cetera. And then also just that finding time and balance to connect with myself and remember who I am and stay in touch with me, and also connecting with other people. So there has to be a balance. Like I can't just give myself all the time. I got to fill my own cup too. So I
Hmm.
got something to give. But then for me, it's also important to make those connections with other people, and that really kind of helps keep me grounded. The balance between the two really kind of helps keep me from not in my head too much, but also not just taking in too much. So,
Right. Yeah.
yeah.
And I think as people who produce shows, we in some ways, and I know this is big with me, and this is what I'm working on in therapy, is trying to not always be a people pleaser. And when we do what we do, because a lot of the people who we bring into our shows end up becoming friends. And that's where you get like me, where I put on a show and accidentally overcast it and it's 3 hours long. So like when you want to be a people pleaser and you want to help your friends and you want to put your friends out there and do great things, I think just having that balance where you have to go back and go, okay, I need to do what's best for me as well, and not just constantly be trying to please others. Have you grappled with that at all so far in your producing life?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like I know so many talented people in this industry that I can't produce enough shows to put everybody in them.
Right, right.
It's tough. Like honestly, I do like I also like it almost hurts my feelings to tell my friends and these beautiful people that I know that like I'm sorry you're not going to be in this show. But like that's yeah, I think that's part of like being a producer. But I think that, or at least in my experience, people have expressed, that they appreciate receiving a response and also receiving a kind and honest response. Like I
Right.
think um, being kind and honest and empathetic, like when we're talking with people, goes a long way. But honestly, I believe I've heard that like Florida has one of the best burlesque communities, and we have some amazing performers. And I have found that to be completely true in so many areas, in such a wide variety of burlesque. It's not like we've only got one kind of burlesque here. So
Right.
um, it's tough. Like I want to put everybody in all of my shows.
Yeah, that's always been my problem. Is I'll put a submission out when I was more heavily producing shows, which I'm getting back into it again soon. But back when I was doing it more often, I would put out a call, and like the next morning, I wake up to 95 submissions in my inbox. I'm like, oh shit. And it's all my favorite people, and it's all the people that I love, and I'm like, oh my god. And that's when I start getting to that phase of like, oh my god, if I don't put them in this, are they gonna hate me? And so that's why I've always got to have those conversations with people and go, hey, it's not now, but maybe later, right? If this isn't the right time for you, but maybe down the line it will be. So just learning to handle that, and people not taking things personally. There's always going to be things to do. Now, I know you said you've seen a lot of shows in Florida. Have you seen any other burlesque shows anywhere else other than Florida, or has it just been you've been exposed to here?
So I'd actually seen some burlesque shows in Texas. I'm
Nice.
originally from Houston. I've been in Orlando. Oh, wow, almost 11 years now.
Wow.
So like yeah, I've seen some burlesque shows in Texas. They also do a great job. I'm hoping to kind of start traveling a bit more soon, and every time I go somewhere now, I start looking to see if they've got a burlesque show going on. Yeah.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I highly suggest if you're able to get out to Savannah, Georgia. That's an easier trek than most places to go out and see. There's some amazing shows out there. New Orleans has some of the best. New York City has some of the best. I'm going to the Keys next week, and I'm hoping to maybe try to find one down there. And I know that they have a pretty decent scene too. So it's
Yeah.
I always tell people just go out and go see what you can find, and even if it's in a small place, don't go to a Red Velvet show, but go see some shows. I'm gonna get sued now. Um, they, I'm gonna get sued. I'm gonna give a fuck. They suck.
You know
But
what
like,
though? It's so funny because like when I was in, okay, so I went to Boston early this year, and I was very excited. I looked for a burlesque show while I was there, and I'll be damned, it was Red Velvet, so I didn't
of
go.
course it was. Yes, that is yeah. I don't know if I've actually ever spoken about it on the show before, so I'm gonna go ahead and put a PSA out there. And hey, if you're Red Velvet Burlesque and you're listening to the show, first of all, thanks. Secondly, no, I won't come do a show for you tomorrow at 8 p.m. without any pay. But if you are a burlesque patron, be very aware of Red Velvet Burlesque. They say that they're the best in every single city and every single state, and they are not. They are a sham organization. I unfortunately know some folks who have worked with them, but and then some of them unknowingly, and then found out later that they were, which is sad. Always research the shows you go see and research the companies that put them on. Google the production company. I highly encourage that no matter what show you see, because if you're spending $50-$60 for a VIP ticket, you want to make sure you're not going to see a show in an abandoned warehouse in Boston.
Correct. Yeah.
Because you never know. But anyhow, well, I am so glad that you are on this journey, and I was very proud to be a part of one of your first shows in Orlando, and I cannot wait for us to have more and more of those, because I'm sure we will. So once again, if you want to drop all of your information, how once again all my followers can follow you and become involved in your journey.
Yeah. So again, on Instagram, Miss Magenta Magic, and also Moonlight Castles Productions. And you can also find Moonlight Castles. I have a website. Listen, don't judge me too harshly on the website, okay? Like I did it myself, and
I'm happy you have one.
it's
There are
still
some
new.
folks that have none, so I applaud you
Yeah.
for at least having a web presence.
So that's moonlightcastles.com. And you can contact me there. You can also reach out to me on Messenger or through Instagram on messages, and also on Facebook. I have a Miss Magenta Magic Facebook page as well.
Very cool. Well, I appreciate you being here, and I'm so excited for your upcoming shows. I'll be out of town for your birthday show, but I'm sure I will see videos and behind the scenes things from all of my friends who are in it and from you. So I'm very excited for you on that one, and I'm definitely going to come see the comedy show, because that's one of my favorite things to see. So expect to see my big goofy ass sitting in the audience doing my dumb laugh,
Oh God, I
because that's
can't
just going to
wait.
be so much fun. I cannot wait. All right. Well, I appreciate you, my dear, and we hope to have you back soon.
Thanks.
All right, well, there you have it, my interview with Miss Magenta Magic. Once again, be sure to follow The Burly Nathan Show on all podcast platforms. You can follow me at Burly Nathan on Instagram and TikTok and all the different social medias. If you look up my name, you will find me. Once again, we will be off for about 2 weeks now. I am going away to the Keys, like I said earlier in the show, and I'm going to take some time for myself, recharge, and come back with a great slew of amazing guests that will hopefully entertain and educate and make you continue to listen to the show. Thank you all so very much, and with that, signing off.